What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Cosmic Wonder. We have a lot of new info about Avengers Doomsday to go over in this video, including the working title for the film, which gives us some big clues about what the movie is going to be about. It's something that is actually quite poetic, but also some really big news about Avengers Doomsday's production, including its massive budget. Now, this is all coming from a big report from Forbes, who did a lot of digging, a lot of contacting with sources, and a lot of math. And according to Forbes' new MCU report, Avengers Doomsday's pre-production costs have already tripled those of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And they say that they're expected to keep rising. But before we dive into the numbers and talk about what Forbes estimates that Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars could make, let's dive into something that they revealed about the production company Marvel Studios has used and named for Avengers Doomsday, because it tells us some very interesting things about the movie. In Forbes' article titled "Disney Reveals Spending on Avengers Doomsday," Forbes states that filming for Avengers Doomsday starts at the end of this month at Pinewood Studios in the United Kingdom under the working title For All Time Productions. And what's really interesting is they state that For All Time Productions is not only a reference to the TVA from Loki, but how the narrative will span different eras of time and space, by stating that it is a nod to multiple eras, which sounds awesome, but let's first break down the name. Forbes says the Disney subsidiary behind Doomsday is called For All Time Productions UK, and a nod to the movie's setting in multiple eras. Now, if you watched Loki Season 1 and Loki Season 2, then you're probably familiar with the TVA slogan, which is For All Time Always, which just so happens to be the name of the production company for Avengers Doomsday. This tells us that the TVA is going to be heavily involved in the plot for Avengers Doomsday, and by effect, Loki as well. Now, Alex Perez from the CosmicCircus.com recently revealed some interesting plot points for Avengers Doomsday. He explained that in Avengers Doomsday, Doctor Doom and his team, whoever that team consists of, are going to be racing against another team, the Avengers, to basically see who can get to Loki first. So right now we know from Loki Season 2 that Loki is holding together the entire multiverse. He is the current reason that it exists. He's the reason that branch timelines can now happen, because before, under the rule of He Who Remains / Kang the Conqueror, every branch timeline got pruned. Now, we talked about this in a couple of videos, but I do see a common question, and it is a good question, and that is, how exactly would Doom and or the Avengers actually get to Loki? Well, the answer to this lies in something else that Alex Perez stated about Avengers Doomsday, and that is Doctor Doom is actually quite upset with Kang and the TVA because of how Kang treated the sacred timeline and every other universe besides the sacred timeline. At this point in time, it seems pretty clear that Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom is not going to be from our universe, so he's not from the sacred timeline. And clearly the sacred timeline, even when other universes exist, has had kind of preferential treatment. Just take a look at Deadpool and Wolverine, where Agent Paradox says, we're going to take you out of your universe and bring you into the big one, the Prime universe, the sacred timeline. It's made to be a really big deal, the sacred timeline. They make it seem very special to go there. And apparently we're going to find out in Avengers Doomsday that this actually pissed off Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom. So I believe that he's going to go for the TVA. Now, Doctor Doom is one of the most powerful sorcerers in Marvel history. He is also a genius and does use a lot of tech. He could definitely find out about the TVA's existence, and then once he did, he'd only have to make it to the TVA, steal their technology, which shouldn't be hard. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in time we find out that the TVA visited Doom's universe and he overthrew them. He took their technology, and that's how he found out about them. From there, he just takes Kang's technology, figures out how it works, reverse engineers it, then combines Kang's ultimate technology with his sorcery. That'll make him insanely powerful, and that will probably enable him to get to Loki. And as far as how the Avengers are going to do it, perhaps they use the quantum realm, perhaps they use Doctor Strange. Maybe Mobius actually goes to the Avengers to get some help, because we did hear that originally Deadpool and Wolverine was going to be Deadpool and Wolverine and Mobius working for the TVA, going around trying to recruit essentially really great heroes to try and stop the multiverse from collapsing. And we also heard that it could have been the TVA was simply trying to save the greatest heroes of them all because the multiverse was going to be destroyed. So both teams use the TVA, and it's going to be a race against Loki, which means in Avengers Doomsday, we're going to essentially get the opposite of what we got in the first Avengers film. We got Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark versus Tom Hiddleston's Loki. And now the fate of the multiverse actually comes down to Loki and Robert Downey Jr. He's not necessarily Iron Man. However, I still do believe that he is probably playing Tony Stark, a Tony Stark variant. Now, I know they have said he's playing Victor, but again, the Russo brothers said Avengers Endgame wasn't called Avengers Endgame. They lied to not give things away and to try to throw us off. So I really wouldn't be surprised if he's playing Tony Stark. In fact, I expect that to be the case. So it really could come down to Loki versus Tony Stark for the fate of the universe. And that's pretty much what the first Avengers film was, Tony Stark versus Loki. We have come full circle, basically, in the MCU, and it's actually really cool. And I've seen a lot of people who think the same thing, call it poetic, and I agree. Especially with Loki's story in the MCU, his arc, how far he has come, it's been absolutely amazing. So it's all going to come down at the end to the TVA and Loki. Now, since we're getting Avengers Secret Wars, and that's most likely going to give us Battleworld, unfortunately, it seems like Loki and the TVA are going to lose. If there is Battleworld, that means that's the only thing left in the multiverse, and Loki can't hold the multiverse together if there isn't a multiverse. So it seems like he's going to lose, but I think most of us expected that. Either way, this sounds awesome for the plot of Avengers Doomsday. And Marvel just backed that up big time with the official name for their production company for all time. Now, like I mentioned, Forbes reported that the budget for Avengers Doomsday is 3 times the budget of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and they're expected to keep rising. They state Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania has been one of the biggest box office bombs in MCU history, partly because it only gathered $476 million worldwide, but also in part because it only reached a staggering $388 million. Forbes states that Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars are expected to have the biggest budget in the MCU's entire multiverse saga, but the actual numbers may still exceed expectations. Now, real quick, before they dive into the new details about Avengers Doomsday that they have learned, they do give us the numbers. They state, so far, Marvel Studios has reportedly spent $8 million on Avengers Doomsday, whereas the studio had only spent $2.5 million on Ant-Man and the Wasp, around 10 months into its pre-production. Marvel's reported monthly spending on Avengers Doomsday doubles that of the Ant-Man threequel, $531,919 against $251,165. But here's the kicker. They state that Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame cost $800 million to $1 billion to make, meaning Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars could cost up to $2 billion in total. Now, this may seem worrisome to some people, but I think that this is actually insanely great news. They are going all out with the next 2 Avengers films, which they should, especially if you consider the build-up to these Avengers films hasn't been really that much. Now, of course, that is due to the original story for the multiverse saga building up to Kang originally, but Marvel Studios has ditched Kang, and now Robert Downey Jr. has returned with Doctor Doom. So the setups that they did for Kang are basically gone. There might still be some things they can salvage, but Avengers Doomsday comes out next year, and we don't even have an official Avengers team in the MCU right now. Marvel knows what position they're in, so going extremely big for these next 2 movies is great to hear. It means they have confidence in these 2 movies. It means based on all the talks that they've had with the Russo brothers, with Robert Downey Jr., with looking at the script and the overall story that they've seen for both films, Marvel Studios has confidence that these movies are going to be absolutely massive, so they're putting a ton of money behind the films. That's great news. And according to Forbes, if you use Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame as a strong reference point, Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars should make around $4.8 billion, and that could mean Avengers Secret Wars could become the highest grossing film of all time. They'd have to beat Avengers Endgame, which grossed around $2.748 billion, and of course, Avatar. But given what their plans seem to be for Doomsday and Secret Wars, I would definitely say that these movies have the potential to be bigger. And I think if the Fantastic Four film is super strong, then Spider-Man 4 is super strong, and anything else that we get in between Doomsday and Secret Wars is just great, then yes, Avengers Secret Wars can beat Avengers Endgame. But go ahead and let me know your thoughts about all of this in the comments down below. Do you think this plot for Avengers Doomsday is good? And do you think Secret Wars can beat Endgame? let us know. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Marvel news, rumors, or leaks. Don't forget to like this video, and you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as well. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.